Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Bhalabha Giri Bharadhari Gopi Jana Bhalabha Giri Bharadhari Jashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Bhalabha Giri Bharadhari Jaya Gopi Jana Bhalabha Giri Bharadhari Jashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajagacharya Ashto Tarashata Shishimad Hisavain Vaitesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Shila Prabhupada Ki Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajagacharya Ashto Tarashata Shishimad Hisavain Grace Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Shila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Nitai Gaura Premanandi. Oh, glory to the assembled devotees. Oh, glory to the assembled devotees. Oh, glory to the assembled devotees. Oh, glory to Shishiguru and Shiguranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, the Summon Bonon, Chapter 47, the Son of the Bee, text number 60. Najan Srijongaut Unitanta Najam Srijonga Unitanta Rate Prashada. Najan Srijonga Unitanta Rate Prashada. Swarjositan Nalidaganda Ruchan Kutonja. Swarjositan Nalinaganda Ruchan Kutonja. Rasotsabesya Bujadanda Grihita Kanta. Rasotsabesya Bujadanda Grihita Kanta. Lobdashishan Jad Ugadad Brajabala Bhinam. Najan Srijonga Unitatam Rate Prashadam. Swarjositan Nalinaganda Ruchan Kutonja. Rasotsabe Syabujadanda Grihita Kanta. Labdashishan Ja Ugadat Brajabala Bhinam. Najan Srijonga Unitanta Rate Prashada. Swarjositan Nalinaganda Ruchan Kutonja. Rasotsabe Syabujadanda Grihita Kanta. Labdashishan Jad Ugadad Brajabala Bhinam. Please, Chan. Najan Srijonga Unitanta Rate Prashada. Swarjositan Nalinaganda Ruchan Kutonja. Rasotsabe Syabujadanda Grihita Kanta. Labatsitan Jad Udagrad Brajabala Bhinam. Najan Srijongan Unitanta Rate Prashada. Swarjositan Nalinaganda Ruchan Kutonya. Rasotsabe Syabujadanda Grihita Kanta. Ladapshishan Jat Ugadabra Jabalabhinam. Najan Srijongan Unitantarate Prashada. Swarjoshitan Nalina Gandarutam Kutonja. Rasotsavesya Bhujadanda Grihita Kantha. Labdashishan Jat Ugadabra Jabalabhinam. Na, not. Ayam, this. Srijaha, of the goddess of fortune. Ange, on the chest. U, alas. Nitantaratehe, who is very intimately related. Prashadaha, the favor. Swaha, of heavenly planets. Joshitam, of woman. Nalina, of the lotus flower. Gandha, having the aroma. Rucham, and bodily luster. Kutaha, much less. Anyaha, others. Rasa Utsave, in the festival of the Rasa dance. Asya, of Lord Sri Krishna. Bhujadanda, by the arms. Grihita, embraced. Kantha, their necks. Labda Ashisham, who achieved such a blessings. Jaha, which Udagat became manifest. Brajabalbinam, of the beautiful gopis, the transcendental girls of Brajabhumi. Translation and purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation: when the Lord Sri Krishna was dancing with the gopis in the Rasa Lila, the gopis were embraced by the arms of the Lord. This transcendental favor was never bestowed upon the goddess of fortune or other consorts in the spiritual world. Indeed, never was such a thing even imagined by the most beautiful girls in the heavenly planets, whose bodily luster and aroma resemble the lotus flower. And what to speak of worldly women who are very beautiful according to material estimation? Purport: the word meanings and translation for this verse are taken from Srila Prabhupada's English rendering of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 880. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti comments as follows: Lord Krishna, the best of all avatars, exists on the highest platform of purity and morality, and thus He always remained praiseworthy by all, even while accepting worldly criticism for his cow tending, wandering in the forest, taking meals with young monkeys, stealing yogurt, seducing other men's wives, and so on. Similarly, the gopis, who are constituted of the Lord's pleasure potency, achieve the highest standard of purity and auspiciousness, even in comparison to the goddess of fortune. And thus the gopis are supremely glorious, even though they were criticized by worldly people because they were mere cowherd women living in the forest and behaving in an apparently improper way. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Ummilitangyena Tasmai Sri Gurube Namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Romapada Swamin Iti Namine. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Is like a conjugal companion type. It's a conjugal relationship. So, Sri Uddhava speaking, and in a series of verses that we started to read yesterday, he is glorifying the position of the devotees in Vrindavan, and especially he is highlighting the supreme position or the supreme devotion of the gopis of Vrindavan, the cowherd girls. And he's not only expressing himself in this way, in a very clear way, he is expressing things that are actually, when you hear it at face value, is quite an statement that in certain teachings that are there, transcendental teachings of other disciplic successions, is challenging. And Uddhava in the Srimad Bhagavatam is establishing something very, very wonderfully. This is a very famous verse that is quoted many times by many of our acharyas, and also it appears in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. It appears in two very important conversations that are described in the pages of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. One is the conversation that took place between Lord Chaitanya and Srila Ramananda Roy. That happens in the shore of the river Godavari, in very close to a city in India called Rajmundi. And it's a very important conversation because in that the Lord, through Srila Ramananda Roy, expressed or taught what is the ultimate goal of life. This was a question that Lord Chaitanya placed towards Ramananda Roy to answer. He questioned Ramananda Roy, what is the goal of life? What is the highest position that one can achieve in life? What is the highest, aspiration that we can have? What is the highest position? And the other conversation in which this verse is quoted, this time quoted by Lord Chaitanya himself, was between Lord Chaitanya and Vyankatavata. And that happens both of these events, events happened during Lord Chaitanya's pilgrimage to South India, when he spends, I believe it was 2 years, traveling through South India and basically spreading the process of Krishna consciousness toward that whole part of India. So he met with Ramananda Roy, and so Rajmundi, if you keep going south, eventually he reached a very important spiritual city called Sri Rangam. And Sri Rangam is by the Kaveri River, right? Kaveri. Another of the sacred rivers. Is 7 celebrated sacred rivers. So the Godavari is one, the Kaveri is one, and then we have Jamuna, we have the Ganga, we have the Saraswati, what is it? Ganga cha Jamune chaiva, Godavari Saraswati, Narmade, the Narmade Sindhu Kaveri, the Sindhu, the Narmade, the Sindhu, Narmade Sindhu Kaveri, just means. So all these rivers are considered very, very sacred. So on the shores of this river Kaveri, there is a famous city called Sri Rangam, in which is one of the biggest, if not the biggest, temple for the worship of Lord Vishnu that is in India. Is this beautiful, 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 magnificent temple that have 7 different layers of gates that are all, the entrance are these big gopurans, which is these tall pyramid towers, beautifully ornamented with all kinds of sculptures that appears, like all kinds of demigods and all. It's just mind-boggling. It's really beautiful. And you pass through each of these walls or these areas, and each one represents the 7 gates of Vaikuntha. And when you come to the inner sanctum, there's a golden temple, actually pure gold. The whole roof is pure gold. And in that sanctum, the personality of Ranganath is worshipped. It's Lord Vishnu lying down in the bed of Anantashesha. And beautiful Lord Vishnu. So he is lying like this, his hand like this, and then he's looking at the devotees like this, and all lie down. Very, very, very big. Huh? Maybe, what would you say, like 12 feet or something like that. Say from here to the, what would you say? A little bit like that. No, it's very, very long. You've been in Sri Lanka, no? It's very, very long. Very beautiful. Golden eyes, lotus eyes. Really, really beautiful. And it's worship. This was the headquarters of the Sri Sampradaya. It was the headquarters of the disciplic succession that comes from Lakshmi Devi herself. And the great Acharya of this disciplic succession is Ramanuja Acharya. So that was the headquarters and of the Sri Sampradaya, who basically, in one sense, dominated, influenced. The Sri Sampradaya by Srila Ramanuja Acharya was able to influence most of South India, are followers of the Sri Sampradaya, Ramanujacharya. So Lord Chaitanya reached Sri Rangan, and he met with the main priests. In general, Sri Rangan is managed by a body of there's a body of high priests, and one of them is like, say, the head priest. So the head priest, his name was Bienkata Bhatta. Bienkata Bhatta. Bienkata Bhatta had two brothers, Tirumala Bhatta and Prabodhananda Saraswati. Prabodhananda Saraswati was a sannyas in the line of the Sri Shampadaya. And he has a very small son, 7-year-old, Gopal Bhatta. And when Lord Chaitanya came to visit Sri Rangan in his pilgrimage, he took bath in the Kaveri River and immediately went towards the temple, and he was lost in ecstasy, Lord Chaitanya, and upon seeing Sri Ranganath, and all the devotees were in awe of seeing the beauty of Lord Chaitanya, the effulgence and his ecstatic emotions and dancing. So Bienkata Bhatta invited Lord Chaitanya to stay, because it happened that when Lord Chaitanya reached Sri Rangan, it was the beginning of the 4th month. There is this 4 month of rainy season in India that is very, very intense. When it rains, it really rains, and it's 4 months of stream, like big raining. Rivers overflowed and things like that. Mayapur especially, during this 4 month of rainy season becomes completely flooded. Sometimes you see pictures of Lord Nrsingadev temple. The pujari is doing the Arctic with water, the Ganges water up to the knees, actually up to the waist, basically. Sometimes the snakes, they circumambulate Lord Nrsingadev. Big snakes, like dangerous, like cobra snakes. But they take advantage to worship Lord Nrsingadev. So during that period of time, it's impossible to travel. So Lord Chaitanya accepted the invitation to stay for those 4 months of the rainy season in the house of Bienkata Bhatta. And during that time, they have these wonderful conversations. And in one of those conversations, this verse was quoted by Lord Chaitanya. So I'm going to read part of this reading. I'm going to read from Chaitanya Charitamrita these 2 conversations, so we get the picture of, when these verses, in the context in which these verses were quoted. One by Ramananda Roy in answering the questions of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya was probing Ramananda Roy to go deeper and deeper and deeper into the highest position of perfection that is there in that the living entity can achieve. And in the case of the conversation with Bienkata Bhatta, that Lord Chaitanya, the context in which Lord Chaitanya himself quoted this particular verse. So before doing that, one thing that is implicit in this verse is Uddhava is making a very bold comparison. He's saying that the transcendental favor that these cowherd girls receive is not even available to the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi. which is what to speak. If it's not available to Lakshmi, and Lakshmi have this very intimate relation. Lakshmi is the consort or the conjugal companion of Lord Vishnu. And she's not always engaged in serving the lotus feet of the Lord, literally. She's always sitting at the lotus feet of the Lord, massaging his lotus feet. So she's always in that position. But she's also very intimately connected with the Lord as this line, golden line, that is always in the body of the Lord, in the chest of the Lord. So, if she's so intimately connected with the Lord, how is that? I mean, how greater you can get to that being basically always in the body of the Lord, connected in that way. And then Uddhava is saying that not even for her, for the goddess Lakshmi, the mercy that these girls, simple girls, are receiving is not even achievable for her. And if it's not of her, what to speak of others, manifestations of other different consorts of different avatars and heavenly girls, or what to speak of worldly woman. Is the position of the gopis is superlative. So this is what Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments on this verse. And also Srila Jiva Goswami and Srila Sanatana Goswami both comment on this verse. Okay. It's a lot of reading in this gonna be. Just as Krishna, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the disciples of Srila Prabhupada paraphrased Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's comment. So here is the full comment by him. Just as Krishna, though he is the best of all avatars, performed acts criticized by society, such as herding cows, eating with the monkeys and cowherd boys, stealing yogurt, and taking other wives, and achieve the most praiseworthy, highest position, so the gopis, the essence of the Ladini Shakti. Ladini Shakti means the pleasure potency of the Lord. Criticized as being cowherd woman, wandering in the forest and being deviant in the eyes of the people of Braja. Achieve the highest position, higher than even Lakshmi. That is the intention of this verse. Quote, "Oh, even Lakshmi, situated on the chest of Narayan, obtained a position of enjoying with the Lord exclusively, did not ever get such mercy. The wives of Upendra and other avatars, endowed with the fragrance and beauty of the lotus, with all beauty and good qualities, did not get such mercy. What to speak of the wives of the Lord in his other avatar forms." End of quote. In this verse, the gopis are established in the supreme position as they achieve the rare mercy of being embraced around their necks by the arms of Krishna during the Rasa dance. This implies that Rasa Lila is established in the supreme position among all auspicious events. Srila Jiva Goswami comments on this verse. The Lord of Vaikuntha and Krishna are non-different. Lakshmi, the best of devotees, is always situated in his chest. Why is her love not glorified? On the other hand, the excellence of love in separation of the gopis is glorified everywhere. Quote, When her lover is far away, a woman thinks of him more than when he is present before her. Srimad Bhagavatam 10, 47, 35. If the gopi's union with the Lord is superior to that, it should also be described. Lakshmi is superior because she is always in union with the Lord. However, Lakshmi is his Swarup Shakti, not less than his Swarup. Swarup means form. So Swarup Shakti is a manifestation of his form. How can the gopis, be the object of praise? Uddhava speaks boldly. Lakshmi definitely does not get the joy of intimately associating with Krishna, though she is very attached to Krishna's special form. The women of Swarga have the fragrance and beauty of heavenly golden lotuses. But the word Swarga also means Vaikuntha, and in the following verse, quote, "Thus it appears that the Lord was personally spreading the beauty and good fortune of the spiritual world." Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 15, Text 39. Thus, the meaning is, quote, "Among all women of Vaikuntha, such as Bhu and Lila, endowed with the beauty and fragrance of golden lotuses, Lakshmi has the greatest prema for the Lord. But she could not get the joy of intimate association. What to speak of others? All other women are completely excluded. The Lord's mercy is shown, that mercy eternally present, manifested in the rasa dance for the women of Braja. Their desires were fulfilled by having their throats embraced lightly by the arms of Krishna, who is directly realized by me now as superior to the Lord of Vaikuntha, on seeing the gopis' love. Krishna possesses the form suitable for human pastimes to show the full capacity of his Yoga Maya. That form astonishes even the Lord of Vaikuntha. It is the pinnacle of all auspicious qualities and enhances the beauty of his ornaments. Srimad Bhagavatam 3:2-12. Thus, the extraordinary nature of the gopis' love for him is shown by showing their difference from Lakshmi. With the words Braja Sundarinam, Uddhava shows that the gopis' beauty is superior to that of Lakshmi. This verse indicates that according to the degree of bhakti, various degrees of qualities develop. Quote, "The devatas constantly dwell with all good qualities in that the person who has pure bhakti for the Lord. In that person who has pure bhakti for the Lord. There are not good qualities in the non-devotee who chases after temporary material objects with desire for material pleasure." Srimad Bhagavatam 5:18-12. Instead of Braja Sundarinam, sometimes the phrase Braja Balabhinam is seen. This indicates that the gopis were famous in Braja. And here's Srila Sanatana Goswami commenting on this verse. Though Lakshmi is famous as being dear to the Lord, she does not have the prema of these gopis. The word na is placed first to emphasize the negation. That mercy was not given to Lakshmi. The heavenly women such as Bimala, Utkarsini, and Jnana have the aroma of lotuses as well as being tender and golden. This should have qualified them for the rasa dance, but they could not enter. Humans also could not enter. The gopis were embraced firmly by his arm. The woman of Braja had greater sweetness than Lakshmi. Thus, the gopis were qualified for the rasa dance by their sweetness in form and nature, more than Lakshmi and others. Or, the word you, indicates astonishment. That's when it's translated as all. The extent of excellence of prema shown to the gopis at the rasa dance was not given even to Lakshmi. Having obtained as their intimate lover Achyuta, the exclusive consort of the goddess of fortune, the gopis enjoyed great pleasure. They sung his glories as he held their necks with his arm. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:33-14. The gopis obtained Krishna, who was the dearmost lover of Lakshmi. This indicates that the gopis' prema was the highest of all. Thus the gopis says, quote, when you go off to the forest during the day, a tiny fraction of a second becomes like a millennium for us because we cannot see you. And even when we can eagerly look upon your beautiful face, so lovely, with its adornment of curly locks, we think the Creator was foolish in making eyelids. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:31-15. If Lakshmi has this position, what to say of the woman of heaven? And what to say of the woman of Vaikuntha, such as Dharani and Lila, and others such as Kanti and Dakshina? So, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Lakshmi herself acknowledged this fact. Lakshmi Devi. And it comes in the Bhagavatam, in the 5th canto, when there's a description by Srila Sukadeva Goswami of the different personalities throughout the creation offering prayers to the Supreme Lord to the different manifestation of the Supreme Lord. So Srila Sukadeva Goswami goes, how Prahlad Maharaj offered prayers to Lord Nrsimha, and also how Srimati Lakshmi Devi offered prayers to the manifestation of Lord Narayan as Kamadev. So, in the prayers, she says the follow. This is in the 5th canto, chapter 18, text number 23. And Prabhupada's purport is quite amazing to elucidate, the meaning of this prayer by Lakshmi Devi. Lakshmi Devi says, O infallible one, your lotus palm is the source of all benedictions. Therefore, your pure devotees worship it, and you very mercifully place your hand on their heads. I wish that you may also place your hand on my head, for although you already bear my insignia of golden streaks on your chest, I regard this honor as merely a kind of false prestige for me. You showed your real mercy to your devotees, not to me. Of course, you are the supreme absolute controller, and no one can understand your motives. So Srila Prabhupada explains this verse in his purport. In many places, the Shastras describe the Supreme Personality of Godhead as being more inclined towards his devotee than towards his wife, Lakshmi Devi, who always remained on his chest. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 14, Text 15, it is stated, quote, here, Krishna, Prabhupada, I guess, is paraphrasing. Here, Krishna plainly says that his devotees are more dear to him than Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Sankarshan, the original cause of the creation, the goddess of fortune, or even his own self. Elsewhere, in the Srimad Bhagavatam 10, 9, 20, Sukadev Goswami says, quote, the Supreme Lord who can award liberation to anyone show more mercy towards the gopis than to Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, or even the goddess of fortune, who is his own wife and is associated with him, with his body. And then Srila Prabhupada quotes this verse of today. The gopis receive benediction from the Lord that neither Lakshmi Devi nor the most beautiful dancers in the heavenly planets could obtain. In the rasa dance, the Lord showed his favor to the most fortunate gopis by placing his arm on their shoulder and dancing with each of them individually. No one can compare with the gopis who receive the causeless mercy of the Lord. So, Lakshmi Devi acknowledged the fact, and the Lord himself, he expresses that the reciprocation, the love and the mercy that he gives to his devotees, for him, his devotees are more valuable or more important than even himself or Lakshmi or Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, or Sankarshan, which is, Lord Balaram. So that's his own statement in terms of how the Lord reciprocates with his devotees. So Srimati Lakshmi Devi is wanted to receive the same favor that the Lord gives to his devotees. So, in the conversation with Srila Ramananda Roy, we know that in that conversation, when Lord Chaitanya asked, what is the highest goal of life? Then Srila Ramananda Roy breaks down, starts with pleasing the Lord through following Dharma, Vanashram Dharma. And the Lord, one after another, keeps rejecting. And Srila Ramananda Roy quoted some of the most famous verses of the Bhagavad Gita, all the way to the Sarva Dharman Parityaja verse. And Lord Chaitanya keeps rejecting. Yeah, those are very good, but that's still external. It doesn't touch the essence or, the actual principle message of what is the goal of life. You remain external. So please go on. And then Ramananda Roy came to recite a verse that Lord Chaitanya accepted as, yes, this is it. And then he probed Ramananda Roy to continue, go deeper, and go deeper, and go deeper. So the verse that Lord Chaitanya accepted is a famous verse that Lord Brahma, the prayers of Lord Brahma, Gyane Prajasham Udapasya Namanta Eva verse, that translates, Lord Brahma says, "My dear Lord, those devotees who have thrown away the impersonal conception of the absolute truth and have therefore abandoned discussing empiric philosophical truth should hear from realized devotees about your holy name, form, pastimes, and qualities. They should completely follow the principle of devotional service and remain free from illicit sex, gambling, intoxication, and animal slaughter. Surrendering themselves fully with body, words, and mind, they can live in any ashram or social status. Indeed, you're conquered by such persons, although you are unconquerable." And Lord Chaitanya replied, "This is all right, but still you can speak more on the subject." And Ramananda Roy continued, "As long as there is hunger and thirst within the stomach, varieties of food and drink make one feel very happy. Similarly, when the Lord is worshipped with pure love, the various activities performed in the course of that worship awaken transcendental bliss in the heart of the devotee. Pure devotional service in Krishna consciousness cannot be had even by pious activities in hundreds and thousands of lives. It can be obtained only by paying one price. That is, intense greed to obtain it. If it is available somewhere, one must purchase it without delay." This is a famous verse from Srila Rupa Goswami, that loliam, this intense greed to obtain, love of Godhead. Hearing up to the point of a spontaneous love, the Lord said, "This is all right, but if you know more, please tell me." A man becomes purified simply by hearing the holy name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose lotus feet create the holy places of pilgrimage. Therefore, what remains to be obtained by those who have become his servants? By serving you constantly, one is free from all material desires and completely pacified. When shall I engage in your permanent, eternal servant? When shall I engage as your permanent, eternal servant and always feel joyful to have such a perfect master? Hearing this from Ramananda Roy, the Lord again requests him to go further. In reply, Ramananda Roy said, "Loving service to Krishna rendered in fraternity is the highest perfection." So pay attention that Ramananda Roy is going to the different levels of devotion through the different rasas. So the rasa of being a servant of the Lord, so was the previous verse. So the perfection, the highest perfection that you can obtain is just to be a loving servant of the Lord, a permanent servant of the Lord. But Lord Chaitanya said, further. Now Ramananda Roy is going to say that the loving servant rendered as a friend of Krishna, in friendship, is the highest perfection. Neither those engaged in the self-realization of appreciating the Brahman effulgence of the Lord, nor those engaged in devotional service while accepting the Supreme Personality of Godhead as Master, nor those under the clutches of Maya, thinking that the Lord as an ordinary person can understand that certain exalted personalities, after accumulating volumes of pious activities, are now playing with the Lord in friendship as the cowherd boys. This was a famous verse that is quoted by Lord Brahma. The Lord said, "This statement is very good, but please proceed even further." And Ramananda Roy continued, "Oh, Brahmana," is quoting a verse also from the Bhagavatam, 10th canto. "Oh, Brahmana, what pious activities did Nanda Maharaj perform by which he received the Supreme Personality of Godhead as his son? And what pious activities did Mother Yasoda perform that made the absolute Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna call her mother and suck her breast? The favor Mother Yasoda obtained from Sri Krishna, the bestower of liberation, was never obtained even by Lord Brahma or Lord Shiva, nor even by the goddess of fortune, who always remained on the chest of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu." The Lord said, "Your statements are certainly getting better and better, one after the other, but surpassing all of them is another transcendental mellow, and you can speak of that as the most sublime." And then he quoted the verse of today, Ramananda Roy. When Lord Shri Krishna was dancing with the gopis in the Rasa Lila, the gopis were embraced around the neck by the Lord's arm. This transcendental favor was never bestowed upon the goddess of fortune and on the other consorts in the spiritual world, nor was such a thing ever imagined by the most beautiful girls in the heavenly planets, girls whose bodily lustres and aroma resemble the beauty and the fragrance of lotus flowers. And what to speak of worldly women who may be very beautiful according to material estimations. So, as you see, there is this perfect position of love of Godhead. It goes deeper into a much more higher state of perfection. So in other words, there's perfection in being a servant of the Lord. There's perfection in being a friend of the Lord. There's perfection in being have a parental relationship with the Lord. But the most perfect is this relationship that the gopis have with Krishna. And that becomes very clear in the conversation that Lord Chaitanya has with Venkatavata. Now, it's such a wonderful subject matter, but it's 8:35. And I give the class tomorrow too, by somehow or other. We probably can touch on that, but I can, in the next 5 minutes, I can read a little bit of that chapter in which Lord Chaitanya is discussing this with Venkatavata. So, Lord Chaitanya, he developed this very wonderful friendship with Venkatavata. And like I say, he stayed in the house of Venkatavata for 4 months and basically was able to convert the whole family from worshiping of Lakshmi Narayan into worship of Radha and Krishna. But part of that was by the presentation that Lord Chaitanya made. And he started by question in a lightweight Venkatavata about, the follow. Lord Chaitanya told the Bhattacharya, "Your worshipable goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, always remain on the chest of Narayan. And she's certainly the most chaste woman in the creation. However, my Lord is Lord Sri Krishna, a cowherd boy who is engaged in tending cows. Why is it that Lakshmi, being such a chaste wife, wants to associate with my Lord?" The situation is that when Lakshmi Devi was witnessing the Rasa Lila dance, she wanted to participate, to be part of that Rasa Lila dance. And she went and performed severe austerities to enter into the Rasa Lila dance. So Lord Chaitanya is bringing this question to Venkatavata, a worshipper of Lakshmi Narayan. Why is Lakshmi wanted to go and enjoy pastimes with Krishna when she is connected to Lord Narayan? And the answer is obvious. If someone asks us, we immediately say, there's no difference between Narayan and Krishna, right? So Venkatavata answers like that. Lord Chaitanya continued, just to associate with Krishna, Lakshmi abandoned all transcendental happiness in Vaikuntha and for a long time accepted vows of unregulated principles and performed unlimited austerities. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then said, "O Lord," this is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu quoting from the Bhagavatam, "O Lord, we do not know how the serpent Kalija," this is from the prayers of the wives of Kalija, the serpent Kalija, the Nagas, ladies, wives of Kalija. "O Lord, we do not know how the serpent Kalija obtained such an opportunity to be touched by the dust of your lotus feet. Even the goddess of fortune, for this end, performed austerities for centuries, giving up all other desires and observing austere vows. Indeed, we do not know how the serpent Kalija got such opportunity." Then Venkatavata said, "Lord Krishna and Lord Narayan are one and the same, but the pastimes of Krishna are more relishable due to their sportive nature. Since Krishna and Narayan are the same personality, Lakshmi's association with Krishna does not break her vows of chastity. Rather, it was in great fun that the goddess of fortune wanted to associate with Lord Krishna." Venkatavata continued, "According to transcendental realization, there is no difference between the forms of Narayan and Krishna. Yet, in Krishna, there is a special transcendental attraction due to the conjugal mellow, and consequently, he surpasses Narayan. This is the conclusion of transcendental mellows." So Venkatavata was very knowledgeable, and he could understand that Krishna was superior to Lord Narayan. The goddess of fortune considered that her vow of chastity would not be damaged by her relationship with Krishna. Rather, by associating with Krishna, she could enjoy the benefit of the rasa dance. Venkata further explained, "Mother Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, is also an enjoyer of transcendental bliss. Therefore, if she wanted to enjoy herself with Krishna, what fault is there? Why are you joking about this?" And Lord Chaitanya replied, "I know that there is no fault on the part of the goddess of fortune, but still she could not enter the rasa dance." We hear this from the revealed scriptures. So, she was not able to enter. Even after performing austerities, she was not able to enter. And then Lord Chaitanya quoted the verse of today in this conversation. So he quoted the verse of today, and then he followed by saying, "But can you tell me why the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, could not enter the rasa dance? The authorities of Vedic knowledge could not the authorities of Vedic knowledge could enter the dance and associate with Krishna. So it's a very, very wonderful conversation. I'm going to stop here and then we continue tomorrow. And then maybe give some few minutes for some comments or questions. I mean, we leave it open to understand this question. You know, Lord Chaitanya is saying, the goddess of fortune, who is so intimately associated with Lord Narayan, she was not able to enter, even after performing severe austerities. She was not able to enter the rasa dance. However, the authorities of Vedic knowledge, they were able to enter. And who is these authorities of Vedic knowledge? They were the sages of the Namisharanya. Namisharanya, no, one of the forests that Lord Ramachandra was Dandakaranya. The sages of Dandakaranya, when they saw Lord Ramachandra, they desired to enter into the conjugal ecstasy of, the relationship with the Supreme Lord. And Lord Ramachandra blessed them by, in my next appearance, then you will be able to do that. So, in their next birth, they took birth as gopis. They took the forms of gopis, and they were able to enter. So now, what happens here? What is the difference? What makes the possibility of enter into this intimate, most sublime and supreme position that the gopis have, that Lakshmi Devi could not, and other devotees, such as these authorities of the Vedas, these sages of the Dandakaranya forest, were able to. And then we continue tomorrow. So be there or be square. Any comments or questions in the next couple of minutes? Which?
Nice class. Thank you. With Lord Chaitanya being here somewhere around 500 years ago, and not that you wouldn't have to know this or not, but would this be an accurate depiction of him?
These is because it's following the Shastri descriptions of the Lord, then it is. Now that, this is a modern painting of the Lord, so the devotee is following the instructions that comes through the revelation of the Vaishnava Acharyas. So the Acharyas who were witness of Lord Chaitanya, they described Lord Chaitanya's beauty. So he was very, very tall. Was 7 feet or something like that? And his arms were very, very long. It would extend to his knees, So when he's raised his hand, you can imagine, this magnanimous, and he was very, very beautiful. His complexion was golden, so Gauranga. And beautiful hair, curly hair, and exquisite eyes, everything. All these things are described. Similar, Lord Nityananda is described equally beautiful, and similarly, all the other devotees are described. So the artist can, on description, render a bona fide painting. Srila Prabhupada will review this picture. Srila Prabhupada was very, very careful. There's a story on that Mother Jadurani told us. Jadurani Prabhu was one of the initial devotees of Srila Prabhupada that he engaged in painting. And she was telling us that Prabhupada, when they were painting Narada Muni, Prabhupada would sit with them and send them tapes, send them tapes describing the picture. So Narada Muni is described as a space, transcendental spaceman, that he will travel to the universe like that, holding the Veena. And so the devotees, they thought, a spaceman, who's traveled through Earth, and then the devotee have this picture of Superman, very muscular, like that, and powerful. So they painted Narada Muni very muscular. And Jen Prabhupada say, no, that's not Narada Muni. Narada Muni should be more, slim and very gentle and things like that. I mean, not a skinny guy, but, very beautiful too. But not, sometimes you see devotees paint Krishna, it looks like an Italian boy, like that, muscles and things like that. But no, that's not the depiction, nor Lord Chaitanya like that. So you have to follow the proper siddhanta, the proper teachings, to be able. So it is bona fide. Approved by Srila Prabhupada. Sorry, I got over the time, but it's such a beautiful subject matter that,
That conversation between Lord Chaitanya and Venkat Bhatta, and Venkat Bhatta was in the position of being the head priest at Srirangam. So the question was posed to him by Lord Chaitanya, how it is that Lakshmi Devi couldn't enter into the rasa dance. And Venkat Bhatta is responding with this particular verse. So he had like...
No. Lord Chaitanya quoted this verse.
Lord Chaitanya quoted the verse, okay. And then there's mention that he actually switched from worship of, that's what you said, he switched from worship of Lord Narayan to worship of Radha Krishna. And considering he's the head priest, that one would imagine that would have influenced the Ramanuja followers. But they continued to worship. You gave a brilliant description of Lord Vishnu lying on the bed of Anantashesh in Srirangam. So that has continued that worship, but yet that head priest at that particular moment in time, in association with Lord Chaitanya, he switched to worship of Radha Krishna.
Yeah, it's explained by Venkatavata later that it was part of his duty to maintain, the lineage, and so he did. But his son, Gopal Bhatta, became one of the celebrated six Goswamis, and a follower of Lord Chaitanya. His brother, Prabhupada Saraswati, became, a Lord Chaitanya sort of advocate, fully devoted to Lord Chaitanya. He writes all these beautiful books and like that. And we see that the descendants of Venkatavata, they're immediately very favorable to Gaudiya Vaishnavas, followers of Lord Chaitanya. They, we have the experience when we visit Sri Rangam, the descendant of Venkatavata is still there, and is one of the head priests. His name is Murali Bhatta. Murali Bhatta. And we didn't have the opportunity to enter in the house of Venkatavata, but he invited my spiritual master into that house, and then we heard the descriptions, So my spiritual master was saying that he was showing, in this room here, it's their house. It's like someone, invites you to the house. Yeah, in this room right here, Lord Chaitanya is like, This was the room that Lord Chaitanya used, you know. So imagine living in that and having that type of thing. So it's very wonderful. Prabhu, just get the microphone.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, Prabhupada says we worship Lakshmi Narayan. Though the deities are Radha Krishna, like. So we have a very beautiful deity, Kishore Kishori. It's very attractive. Wherever we go, Kishore Kishori is there. That's a great fortune Chicago Prabhupada gave. My question was like, yeah, previous we used to worship every time Mukut was there, turban, like. But slowly now it's only crown every 5-6 days like that. We have to strive for that day back.
Yeah, well, when Prabhupada said, you know, it's not that we worship Lakshmi Narayan, we worship them. He encouraged us to worship them in the mood of Lakshmi Narayan with awe and reverence. Because, you know, it's Radha Krishna, but because our position is not a spontaneous love, we're not in the spontaneity of love of the Brijavasis, you know, then we have to worship with awe and reverence, which is the worship of Lakshmi Narayan. So in that mood, we worship Radha and Krishna. Yeah, but the turbans are very nice. But the crowns are beautiful too. You know, and then the crowns are very beautiful.
No, I mean, it's a little austere life, you know, serving, putting turbans. But it was like previous, it was like that.
Yeah,
now it's slowly gone totally. 7 days also it was like that. Turbans.
Yeah, I grew up as a devotee in the Brooklyn Temple, in which the deity worship is just superlative. It's beyond perfection. I mean, in my experience in the limited temples that I have visited, there's nothing compared to Radha Govinda's, you know, worship. It's beyond perfection. And they love the crowns. They have crowns. The turbans are out of the world. The crowns are out of the world. And they even have helmets too. You know, that it's just, I mean, if you have a chance sometimes, just go into the website of Radha Govinda. It's tremendous. Anyway, stop here. Garantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.